What's going on, everybody? ChromeOnRust here. We're going to be taking a look at the Barbarian once again. It is going to be through levels 19 through 36. I ended up progressing to the end of Act 3, just killed Azmodan. And well, at the end of Act 2, I was only level 29. We stopped our last video at level 19, only being 10 levels higher. Not a ton of things changed, so I did want to play through Act 3, get a few more levels, get additional gear, and see how things were going to be. Take it from there. And really, there are enough changes now that I want to talk about a few things on my gear. Now I am looking to stack cooldown reduction, and the reason being, while you are using something like your bash with your punish rune on there, or using cleave with reaping swings, your frenzy with really anything, manic, vanguard, weapon throw with throwing hammers, really any of these, they're kind of slow. You're standing around in one place and you're looking to deal some damage, really just to gain fury. You start to stack cooldown reduction and use fury generating abilities, not just like skills that deal damage, but like our Warcry with charge, which now gives us 50 fury since we have picked up the ruin on that skill. Well, see, cast a Warcry, it's actually giving me 60 fury because I am running with the passive animosity, as well as using the Templar running with Inspire on there. That's going to be an additional 20%, so 60 fury from this. Cast our Warcry. You can see that I'm just able to boost my fury just through casting a couple abilities. Just kind of rotating back and forth between the two, I'm able to hammer the ancients a lot more than I was if I were just using my bash ability. If I wanted to use something like bash, I would start to need to stack attack speed and not really cooldown reduction. It's kind of play style, but for endgame barbs, cooldown reduction is just really amazing, so going for it's not going to be hurting you late game either. Now, talking a bit about the crafting system, we could finish up with the Templar. Really, I like to go all the way down the left. It is just kind of preferred preference. Get some healing, additional healing. Well, it's going to stun some targets, a little bit of crowd control, as well as I like to use the one that gives you 10 fury generation. I really feel like this last one is pretty debatable, especially since I am playing it hardcore. I'm using Inspire more because I just kind of want to test builds and I want to get additional fury while I'm using things like Warcry if I do have to bash, whatever the case may be. But also Guardian is very good. It has a cooldown of 30 seconds, but he's going to rush to your aid, knock back enemies within 15 yards of you. You're playing a Barbarian, it's very possible that you may get surrounded. If something like your leap is on cooldown, he runs in, heals you for 3,644 life. You can see that's pretty much about half, not quite half, of our life pool. It's a really great heal. So running with the Templar has still been my preferred route. Looking at the crafting system now, taking a look at the crafting of gems, 10 gold to craft the first one, 25, 40, 55, 70. This is an extreme difference from what it was in vanilla. Playing in vanilla, you were really trying to acquire gold and you weren't able to save it really. You were just hoping that you didn't break your gear and die too often because you wanted to actually be able to craft up some gems or whatever the case may be. Now that was kind of early on and all that, but if that's the last time that you really have had to go through this, which is the last time that I currently had to go through that, it's a lot different. I'm able to actually craft my gems past the point of the ones that I am finding. If I go over here to my stash, I am finding flawed gems, but I'm actually crafting radiant rubies currently. Just because I'm finding enough gems, I'm going to be able to upgrade them. And well, I want to use a radiant ruby or higher, just a ruby in general, in my weapon, because at this point, the lower levels, I didn't really talk about it in the last video as well, weapon damage is going to be a lot better than your crit chance. I guess I talked about it on the rings, but really that just goes for pretty much all of your slots at this point. You're only going to be able to get a couple crit chance here and there. It's going to be good, don't get me wrong, but average damage at this level is just extremely huge, and it's going to be your best buff for your damage. So I wrote down a few things here just so I would not forget. Sockets in helmets, just going over the gear briefly. I do not feel that they're mandatory at this point. It's getting there. It's getting to the point that gems are going to be giving us so much of a buff that you're going to definitely be wanting to have a socket in your helmet. But at this level, I don't feel that it's quite necessary yet. I am just getting to the point where I'm going to be able to get anywhere from like 5 to 6 cooldown reduction when I do go ahead and throw a diamond in my helmet. Just haven't done that yet. Looking for cooldown on your rings, looking for cooldown on your weapons is something that you're going to be wanting to do, as well as you always want to have your movement speed on your boots. You're not going to have any Paragon levels, and you're going to be running around really slow. So I know some of that was repeat. Now, since we are getting gems, you could use something like an XP gem in your helmet. I would feel at this lower level that they would still be pretty beneficial to get the additional 15% increase. I am going to be using cooldown though. There's ones for magic find, there's ones for gold find and various things, not really my preferred. In hardcore, I could also see you going with life percent. At that point though, I would probably just want a vitality roll on this helmet. We don't have the mystic, so I can't really be picky. Whatever the game gives us, we do use. So that's kind of the gear. There's not a ton to it. We did just hit level 36. We've progressed to the end of Act 3. And well, the crafting costs have, I don't want to say skyrocket, but they have started to go up quite significantly. 36 is kind of one of those turning points in the crafting system. Training your artisans is going to cost more. To level up the jewel crafter right now, it is like 10k. If we look at some of the armor, the gloves that I was able to craft previously, well, they were about half the amount. 510 to craft the level 21 ones. How about that? And then looking at the level 36 gloves, well, it's pretty much double. Actually, it is exactly double, sticking with the Diablo trend. So crafting, though, is pretty much going to be mandatory. I am not running out of materials. I am not running out of gold while I'm playing an expert. As long as you're not trying to really min-max your gear, like you can see here, I'm not using cleave. I don't want to use cleave. I have cleave gear or cleave damage on my gear, but that's just the way it goes. I crafted these. They're good enough. They have 4 primaries. They have physical as a secondary. They're actually a really good pair of pants, other than just having the cleave damage. I'm not going to keep crafting them just to get the perfect pair. The lower levels, save your resources, save your gold for when you get to the higher stages in the game. So looking at these skills, below level 30, I was trying to run a whirlwind build. Don't really feel that you're going to be able to. You're not going to have enough cooldown reduction, and you're going to be derping and running out of fury. You know, you be inside of a big pack, and then, well, you run out of fury and you're just kind of standing still. Luckily, in those situations, since I am playing in hardcore, taking it kind of slow, I have been preferring to use leap. It gets you out of those really bad situations, and that's exactly what leap is doing for you. Now you can see that not a lot really has changed with the skills. Like I said, I wasn't really able to get a whirlwind build working, but at this point, now that I'm actually starting to stack some cooldown reduction, I think currently I'm sitting over 10. Yep, sitting at 11.65. As I said, I'm going to be using cooldown reduction in my helmet as well. We did as well get Warcry with charge, giving us 50 fury instead of just 20, getting some cooldown reduction. Still using Threatening Shout. I really like Threatening Shout. You're going to also be able to slow the monsters by 60%, as well as reduce their damage by 20%. Now, Falter is also very good. It's going to reduce the attack speed of the monster by 20% as well. But if you're using this ruin, which is going to slow them down, you're just going to be able to kite them. You're not really going to have to worry about them hitting you. You know, if it's an archer and it's a ranged monster, well, maybe Falter would be better in that case, but that's normally not something that's going to be as big of an issue. I prefer this ruin if I am running with Threatening Shout, and really while you are rotating back and forth between the two, we look at Warcry. I said it gives me 50 fury, but I am using the Templar with Inspire, which is going to give us an additional 10% fury. Then looking at the passive, which is going to give us an additional 10% fury. Are those the best passives? Are those the best skill choices? If you're trying to really make a build work, I feel they are. Because, well, as you saw, I cast my Warcry, I gained an additional 10 fury, I cast my Threatening Shout, and I'm really just kind of going back and forth between the two. Rocking back and forth between the two is what I was trying to say. And you can see I have my Threatening Shout back, cast it. If I were to cast my Warcry right now, we can see that it'd be kind of a waste. Like, I wouldn't even need to cast it. I'd want to make sure that I hold it and then cast my Warcry, because it's just going to be filling up my bar. Making a Whirlwind build work at this point. In the next video, I'm probably going to have a little bit more on that, because Whirlwind builds at the lower levels and in the easier difficulties are actually a really efficient way to clear. Passives, Tough as Nails, Superstition, nothing's really changed there, and Animosity, as I had said. Really, Weapon Masters for damage. Bloodthirst is... it'd be alright for survivability at this point. I would prefer to use Tough as Nails and Superstition though, which is why I'm running those. Ruthless for some additional damage. A few random facts that I have written down. In my last video, I said that trinkets update at like levels 12 and 14. Really, they just update at all various levels. There's going to be a vendor in Act 2 that you can buy trinkets for. There's going to be a vendor here in Act 3. I do believe it's this one here in the corner. You just go over to trinkets and you can see, well, I am using level 27 rings. He already has level 34 rings. None of these are an upgrade for me. But I am still using blue jewelry. That's something that's also going to be very major in helping you progress, is making sure you kind of keep up to date on your trinkets. The game doesn't really drop you them that often, and when you do get one, well, it's possible that it's just going to be bad and it's not going to be an upgrade over your blue ring. So going back to the vendors and checking to see if they have a new one every once in a while, you're definitely going to want to do. End of Act boss legendary drop rate. Now this is actually something that I have heard no news about. Now we know that they moved the guaranteed legendary to Malthael. No one's probably playing in campaign. Now I realize saying that no one is playing in campaign is false because I am sitting here doing it currently. But the majority of players I do not feel are playing in campaign. And well, I think they moved all legendaries to every end act boss. I have to date killed 5 end act bosses on a fresh character. Every one of them has dropped me a legendary. In addition, 2 of those were double drops. I have played with Yarlith over on Nasty Old Vikings with me. He was playing in hardcore. We're playing on the US server, not with this account. I want to do this with totally solo and get the whole new fresh experience. We both got legendaries off the end act bosses. He got one, I got one. We both got double drops off of one of the end act bosses, the 2 that we killed together. I think pretty much every end act boss is dropping you a legendary. If he's not, the drop rate is so high that it might as well pretty much be guaranteed. I don't know if they plan to release that for seasons, if this is something they're just kind of trying out. This is really just a little behind the scenes. They don't always say that they change minor things like that. They want players to discover it, and they don't want somebody to be sitting there thinking like, if I were to grind campaign as fast as I possibly could and complete every act within under an hour, would I be finding more legendaries? Those type of things they are trying to avoid by not necessarily always sharing little tidbits like that. So there was always that. That was actually pretty interesting. Elites start to get 2 affixes or affixes, something like that. People always get on me for that one because I'm not always sure how to say it. Level 25 and level 26, always be paying attention to the elites. You don't want it to like surprise you and just like wormhole you in or something like that into a desecrator or a molten. You know, it just could be completely horrible to suffer death to something like that when you could just hover over the monster and see exactly what it's going to be doing to you. I have not had to repair gear. I have not had to buy potions. Goblins at this point, they're actually pretty huge. They give you a ton of crafting materials. They give you a decent amount of gold. They're going to have a okay chance to drop you a legendary. Not really anything crazy, but in terms of just finding items at this point in the game is just really, really amazing. So getting a few extra legendaries, maybe a couple blue crafting materials, some gold, it's going to be helping you progress quite a bit. The difficulty on expert has been completely fine. I am still dual wielding, have not felt the need to actually go ahead and throw on a shield. You do encounter side zones with resplendent chests. I think they slow you down probably just a little bit, but you get additional item drops because normally the side acts or side dungeons, whatever you want to call them, have resplendent chests in act or the level 2 of whatever dungeon you are going in. Like let's say if we're going into Den of the Fallen, you know, Den of the Fallen has the resplendent chest when you get into the 2nd level. So going for those, I think it's okay. I don't think it's horrible, but I think it does slow you down just a little bit. Be sure to pick up all rares, and something I want to look at in the next video is going to be, is XP gear really worth it? Maybe I'll be able to determine it, maybe I won't. Really just finding the gear that's going to be enough to help you survive is really what you're looking for. You're not necessarily looking for a secondary of plus experience. I want to try one in the helmet of my, or the socket of my helmet, see how things like that go. That is pretty much all I had for you for this video. I do believe, looking over, did not talk about all the skills. One thing I did have written down is Rend with Bloodlust is just amazing for healing. What I have written down is Rend equals healing. healing equals tanking, and when you are tanking more on your Barbarian, going ahead and look at it here, while you are absorbing damage, you're going to be sometimes generating fury as well. So if you can stand inside of the monster's damage, you know, the radius of damage, you're going to be getting more fury that way as well. That's how whirlwind builds kind of are still able to work a little bit. You know, you kind of rock back and forth between something like your war cry, your threatening shout, as well as you are trying to absorb some additional damage. And well, you shouldn't be running out of fury too often. But that's going to be something for the next video. I hope this one was at least a little bit better than maybe the last one, and maybe they'll just keep getting a little bit better. I don't know. I don't think the last one was bad, but maybe it was. Well, it kind of was, because the voices and everything were off. So that's going to be it for me. I'm just going to end it here and quit the ramble. I'm out of here, and you all, as always, have a great day.
Returning to town.